Okay, so I'm trying something on my computer at the moment because I'm trying to record this directly onto the computer instead of onto my phone because I'm running out of space on my phone. So at least with Linux and Zorinos 17, it makes it easier to actually record stuff directly onto the computer instead of, because Windows was, yeah, the virtual machine didn't work out, when I used to use it on there because of lag and lack of hardware acceleration and all that. Yeah. So from everything that we've been seeing with these crazy storms recently, a lot of this has been prophesized or predicted or whatever you want to call it, based on the what do you call, without saying it, all the biblical stuff, but apparently we're in this time now, end times, whatever you want to call it, where we're going through all these global changes and everything else. Now, obviously, it's a very difficult time for everyone, but it's even more of a problem for young people who are growing up because the actual cultures are in a state of flux because of the everybody needs what's called a solid foundation. They need to have a congruence of where they're from, a solid foundation of identity, if you like. But what's happening right now is everything is in a chaotic kind of state where you don't know where you are because what with the integration or the intermixing of different cultures, we're going to see culture clashes, all sorts of things like that. We're also going to see differences of opinions getting a little bit too heated because we are in this time of huge change. Now, this is going to affect young people more than it's going to affect the elderly because older people, generally speaking, have a foundation, or they've got a historical congruence, which is the right word to use because it's what is guided them through their entire lives, and that's not going to suddenly change overnight. It's not just going to change because people, there's a term that goes like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, basically that means that people are set in their ways, and we all know about that. The biggest problem though is the situation that's happening right now is this instability. It's going to cause all sorts of frictions to arise because people don't know, are having trouble finding their own identity. Young people especially, I mean it's the young people who are finding their own difficulty in finding their own identity, as in to do with the R word, if you know what I mean. I just mentioned a bit about the biblical stuff, but you know what I'm talking about. So people are a little bit, younger people are being pushed in different directions. And there's a lot of dissemination against long established cultures or belief systems. What I'm trying to say is that we just have to basically recognize that we are in this time of huge flux, and we have to find common ground. We have to find something that we all resonate towards, as in basically it's a question of survival and living amongst our neighbours. It's about staying focused on what is important, which is obviously we have to help each other, because if you don't help one another, then you have what the powers that be are trying to push on us, which is the old story of divide and conquer, which has been going on for many years, and it's always manifested its way in to do with wars, to do with racial discriminations, to do with basically anything that creates separation. It's that old baseline, and it is a baseline. Divide and conquer is a baseline, right? It's dividing people is not going to fix anything. It's not going to build bridges. It's not going to solve anything. All it does is create destruction in the end, and that's where you have, this is why so many countries in the world are falling apart right now. And we've got enough problems right now, what with the storms, the coronal mass ejections, we've got earth changes going on right now. I don't know, my throat is a bit... We've got all these crazy earth changes going on right now. We have to try and pull together in this, right? It's no good quabbling over trivial little things. It's not gonna solve anything. So all I'm saying, I mean, I did my course in psychology. I didn't complete it. I was only doing stage 1. But at the end of the day, people appreciate when people are courteous towards them, right? When people are showing some understanding and a little bit of compassion, a little bit of gratitude for what they have. And it's not going to make things better to start just quarreling over silly little things. And sadly, we are seeing quite a bit of turmoil in younger generations, but they've got karma to deal with as well. There's a lot of karmic influence that's going on. Most of us are supposed to have resolved our karma actually at this point in time, because we are at a point where many spiritual people, because I'm a spiritual person, we have already resolved our karmic problems, if you like. If people have had many lifetimes, they've got to a point. But the problem is, we have got this intermix going on with different cultures right now, and some of these newer cultures, as in when I say newer cultures, I mean newer to us. Some of these other cultures are still working through that karmic problem, and that karma is basically where certain life challenges happen in a spiritual sense that's supposed to teach you how to become a better person, a better spiritual being, and to evolve. And really what the globalist agenda has actually done is mix everything out in a big melting pot, which is what we're in right now. We're in a freaking big melting pot, right? Where it's not going to work. It's not going to work unless if we don't allow it to work. It's not going to work, right? So it's hard. It's freaking hard. You know, people tend to separate themselves. They try to isolate themselves. They live in their own little boxes. We're all living in boxes. Houses are boxes, right? So I mean, and we've got our own little space. I mean, if that's all you can do, that's what you're going to do. I mean, live in your box. But what's important is that we don't step outside of our box and into somebody else's box and start telling them what's what and how to do things, because that's not going to work. You know, we have I mean, some of us, I mean, let's face it, I mean, if you're eating a bacon sandwich, right, some people are offended by the word bacon, right? And if somebody says, oh, why don't you put some marmalade on it? Or why don't you put some custard on it? Yeah. No, it doesn't work like that. Yeah, this is what's happening right now. I mean, we've got this culture, these different cultures, right? And they're so different that you just can't put them together. You know, you can't put marmalade on a freaking bacon sandwich, right? And what I'm trying to explain is that there's such a huge contrast. There's a huge difference between these cultures that you just can't put them together. You can't, because they're so diverse in their own way. They've become so they've just become so unique in their own specific mindset that it's a conflict right from the word go. You just can't, they just don't come together at all. They don't fit. The pieces don't fit. You know, that's what I'm saying. So this is why we have to understand what's going on right now, is that this has got nothing to do with race. It's to do with cultural clan. It's a clan, right? This is what it is. We are all different clans. And that is the oldest term in the book. It is the oldest thing. And it's been ignored. It's been overcomplicated. It's been turned into something that it shouldn't be, by calling some people racists, when it's not that. It's a culture shock. It's almost like grabbing an electric fence. You don't want to do it. You can't do it. This is what the problem is with all the different clans. It's as alien to one clan's identity as touching that electric fence and getting a shock from it. It's a huge impact on the congruence, the foundation of who they are. It's their personal being from childhood to adulthood. You just can't walk into that and say you've got to change, you've got to become like these people. You can't do it. It won't work. It just doesn't work. So just try to get along with each other, for God's sake, you know? That's all I'm saying. Just don't let all of this divide and conquer nonsense, which is what we're seeing everywhere in the media. It's everywhere. Don't let it get to you. Don't let it control your life. Just stick with your family. Go to your work, make your bread, make your money, feed your family. Forget all the other stuff. Just, if you want to live in a box and everyone wants to live in their own boxes, that's fine. At least we'll get along in our own way, you know? But you can't go out of that box into somebody else's box and say, oh, you've got to do it this way because that's the way we do it. No, that's not going to work. You might as well. That is just not going to work. It won't. It can't work, because if you understand what the word congruence means, it's a deep-rooted, foundational sense of identity that you cannot erase that, because that's who that person is. So let's say I was to go up to a duck, right? Let's use an example. Let's say if I'll go up to this duck, right? And I'll say, you're not a duck anymore. You now, I'm going to call you whatever, right? You're going to call this duck something else. You say, you're not a duck anymore. You are now going to adopt my religion and you are now a tree. The duck's going to go, whap. See what I'm saying? A duck is a duck. You can't change it, right? The world has gone bonkers, it really has. So I just wanted to have a rant about this tonight. Because, you know, all it's going to do is create more friction. And this is what causes wars. This is what causes wars. When you can't recognise that there are some things you just cannot change. You cannot change a lifetime of experience of being a duck, right? So, if you're a duck, you're a duck, right? You can't change that duck into something else, right? That's what I'm saying. So that's the only analogy I could use to explain it, right? It's the simplest analogy I can think of, right? But somebody that's grown up, somebody that's spent, say, 40, 50, 60 years of their life as being a certain way, that person has to keep on being that way. And the only thing that changes that person is when they eventually die of old age or die, whatever, or get run over by a truck, whatever. But this is when you get back into, oh, well, we just kill everybody. No, that's war. That is what they want. That is what... This is why we're being steered into this. We're being pushed into this. This is what the melting pot is doing. It's creating this friction, this problem. There wasn't a problem before because we all had our separate countries and we all got along great. Oh, it's nice to go to France. It's nice to go to so-and-so for a holiday and experience the different cultures. But it's no longer that. It's now become permanent. It's like, you've got to become like us now. No, it won't work. It can't work. It just doesn't work. Even as much as people want it to work, it just doesn't work. Because if you've grown up all your life eating Yorkshire puddings and gravy and bacon sandwiches, you can't suddenly turn all that off and go and eat a different diet. I mean, it's what you're used to. It's what is become congruent in your diet. It's part of who you are. It's part of your past. You have memories of when being a child, when you went to stay with your grandmother and her dishing up this food on the plate, and you have memories of all of that, and that is something that creates the congruence of your childhood of growing up and living that way. You can't just forget that life and become a new life. You can't. It does not work. So why on earth are they doing this to us? Why are they pushing us all together and trying to create this thing which most of us don't even understand? This is what's going on. I mean, there's stuff going on now that's saying, you've got to adopt this, and 99% of the time you don't even understand what it is. And when you do find out what it is, you realize you made a mistake. So that is basically what's going on right now. It's just creating chaos. If you want to understand what I'm talking about and you still don't understand what I'm talking about, then maybe you need to go to do what I did, which was to go to a psychological course in Open University or Hull University or a university of your native land, and study what human nature is all about, what identity is, what congruence is. You can do a search on the internet anyway for congruence. You can find out what that all is. You can do a bit of online research, understand that, and start to pick through it and realize, can that person's congruence and this person's congruence, different people from different lands, can they ever come together and be as one? Maybe as a marriage, maybe, but as in 100%. I mean, then you've got the problem with, does A become like B, or does B become like A, or do they come to some kind of in between sort of state? It just doesn't seem to. It doesn't. What's the word? It doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. You see, the reason why a lot of people find it opposites attract. It's an old term. Opposites attract, right? The reason why that works is because people admire the difference. They admire having something which is unique, but doesn't mean to say that they want to be that, if you see what I'm getting at. It just means that you've got a red car, or you've got a white car, or you've got a black car. Yeah, I like a white car this time. Oh, no, actually, no, I think I'll get an orange one. So, we're talking about cars now. But yeah, the thing is, sometimes there's another term about a change is as good as a rest. So sometimes we do like to have a change, but it's not something that you can be part of. It can't be part of your soul, but it can be something that you have in your hand, which you admire, but that's for today. And tomorrow it'll be something else. So, but then there's things that you've had your entire life. Yeah, your grandmother gave you something. Maybe it's a necklace. Maybe it's some cufflinks. Maybe it's something that you've had your entire life, and you have a fascination about it because of the history and the relationship you had with your grandmother or your grandpa or whatever. And that thing becomes a part of you in a deeper sense. But that is an inanimate object. It doesn't argue with you. It doesn't tell you what to do. It doesn't conflict with you in any way. But there are things that you might have that want to interfere with who you are, that want to change you into something else. That's when things get messy, right?